Hi guys, it's Adriana with Jack's Mom in Austin, and I realize I'm a little late with this video, but I was probably a little ambitious thinking at noon exactly I'll be able to just go live. I can't possibly have anything stopping me from doing so. So that being said, I finally made it like an hour late, but that's okay because I will probably upload this to YouTube, and I will make sure to provide a link on a future blog post so you guys have references and resources that you can look back on. So I decided to chat this up because the last couple of days I've been looking up different snacks and treats that would help with lactation or produce lactation. Up my milk. Also, I'm going to give myself points for even being able to speak right now since we are on day 8 and probably on a couple hours of sleep a night. However, we did have a good night last night after cluster feeding for a while. This kid finally nodded off for like a solid 5 or 6 hours, and I wasn't going to touch him. I wasn't going to wake him up after 3 hours to feed him. I felt that he was good after 6 hours of cluster feeding, and we'll talk about that because that's something I did not know about with Jack, and that in itself is enough to want to make you quit. So it's definitely a challenge, but don't give up. So anyway, I'm going to start with different types of snacks and treats that you guys can make at home or that you can buy to help produce or up your production. Now, my friend Misty from Balanced Foodies, super sweet, super awesome, left me some lactation balls. Have them in this fantastic little bowl. There you go. These are delicious, by the way, Misty. I am having a hard time not sitting down and eating them all at once. And they're pretty similar to like energy boosting date balls that you would make if you're not producing, which you just use dates, pitted dates. You can add other things to it. She added rolled oats, which is a huge producer of milk, also called Galactagogues. I hope I'm saying that right. Naya used that flashy word for me a few days ago, and I was like, I have no clue what that is. So I looked it up because I felt, I needed to figure out what these things are. And I got an entire list of foods that really help with milk production, which I thought was really cool because I didn't know a lot of these before. Like I said, I have a really great tribe of friends now, and you guys that are always offering help and different resources and information to help me, which is really cool. That being said, when I looked it up, I figured out that it's basically any food product or product that helps with your milk production. So like rolled oats, the brewer's yeast is a big one that everyone always talks about. Also, which I didn't know about this, but green papaya and ginger came up as really big milk producers, and sesame seeds. So I'll go ahead and add a list to this blog post so you guys have that later. So if you do want to experiment with these other ingredients, you can. I'm actually thinking of maybe trying to make a curry with ginger, see what that does for fun. Because while I would love to sit and eat cookies all day, all the time, I probably should not. And that brings us back to Misty from Balanced Foodies and her lactation bites. Now, I really like these because they don't have as much sugar as all the recipes I have been finding online for cookies. The cookies tend to have not only about a cup of sugar, but another cup of brown sugar. And most of you know I had gestational diabetes, which seems to have cleared up. But because of that, my future with diabetes, the likelihood of me having it in the future is a lot higher. So I don't want to go down that road, or I want to prevent it as long as possible. And the only way I can do that is by making better choices with my foods. So, like I said, I'd love to sit and eat a dozen cookies, but I should not. So the lactation bites from Misty, which are actually on her blog right now. Again, I'll add a link. Have a lot less sugar and they're a lot healthier, a healthier option than your cookies that you're going to find online. Particularly the cookies that hide the brewer's yeast taste. I know one of my other friends, Viviana, right? I say she's my friend, and I probably can't even pronounce her name right. But she's become a friend. She has twins that are pretty little babies. And she mentioned how the brewer's yeast is just so gross and you can taste it. It's really hard to eat the cookies. I found that a lot of the recipes that mask that have an even higher content of sugar, which you don't want. Like, you don't want to be eating, sitting down all day, panicked and nervous, and your one snack, your go-to snack, is another cookie with all this sugar and all this stuff in it that you probably shouldn't be having. So I decided that I would try to find other options, which I love the lactation bites, and I also found a muffin recipe that has a lot less sugar, which again, due to, while I am ambitious, I did not get to finish the muffins. They're actually baking right now, but I will try those and let you know how those go. I think that they're going to be better than the cookies, mostly because with muffins you can have them for breakfast, and they're pretty easy and they're stout, and I just think that they're a better option than cookies. So yeah, another thing that came up that I saw in my search for, I'm going to do the little baby dance because he's squawking, and I thought this was kind of funny because I wouldn't think to mention this. While I was looking at another mommy blog, she mentioned that if your husband or your child happens to eat one of your treats, they will not spontaneously start lactating. So I never would have thought to mention that, but I'm going to mention that because I'm sure if you guys decide to make them at home and you have a toddler like I do, they're probably going to want one. So rest assured that they will not start squirting milk everywhere. I wish that the efficacy of these ingredients was that productive, but it's not. So that being said, the whole family can enjoy whatever treats you guys decide to make. So yeah, so talking about these treats, another thing, this comes from Naya from Lactivist and Louboutin. Also an amazing resource for anything breastfeeding. You guys should look her up. Again, I will add a link. She is actually getting her certification later this year. So she's going to be legit. Totally proud of her. But even though she doesn't have it yet, she still has this wealth of knowledge on everything #boob talk. So I do go to her a lot. And one of the things that she mentioned was that if you are going to be doing lactation bites or cookies or muffins or whatever you want to do, that you pump. I mean, you can't just feed your baby and have all these treats and then expect this like luxurious flow of milk to come from that. You do have to pump as well to kind of encourage that milk production, because once your baby is done eating, you want to get the last little dredges in there, and that also convinces your body that, oh, there's still a baby suckling, I need to produce more. And that's what you want to produce more. And this is my own personal, like, I didn't produce extra with Jack. Like, I produced just enough for him. Whatever I produced extra was literally like an ounce when he was 6 weeks old at a time, which was really frustrating because I felt like I should be producing 10 ounces at every go, and that's not true. That's not accurate. I was just producing whatever he was leaving behind or whatever he wasn't finishing. I wasn't going to produce enough to feed 3 other babies. So I thought that was something important for you guys to know as well, that especially in the very beginning, you're not going to suddenly produce ounce after ounce of milk. You're only going to produce what your baby needs. And once you start pumping or adding pumping to their schedule, that's when you're going to get more milk come from that. And even then, in the beginning, it might not be very much. And as time goes by, your body might not respond to a pump at all, and it might not ever get, the 10, 15 ounces extra that I've heard some moms can get. For my body with Jack did not respond to a pump at all. This time around, we're trying a different pump. We're trying Amida. We did Medela the first time. They're both hospital grade, but for whatever reason, didn't work. I have a suspicion that it might be actually more because I did not have a lot of resources, did not have a lot of information. While I am a research junkie, I didn't think to research breastfeeding. I bought one book on the subject and thought, this is all I'll need. And then once you're in the thick of it, you're like, oh shit, like this is a lot. It's a lot of stuff. It's definitely a challenge. So that being said, if you guys are going to do these treats, they are wonderful, they are awesome, and it's something nice to have that's easy to grab, but you also have to pump. So that comes from Naya. Misty also lists, from Ballast Foodies, lists different Galactagogues. I really hope I'm saying that right, guys. I'm so sorry if I'm not. But anyway, she has a list on her blog of a few of them. I will list more. I will also go check out Naya's blog and see if there's anything there that I can link to. But that's pretty much all I kind of wanted to cover, was just the difference between what might work for you, what might not, and how to mask the brewer's yeast. If you do the cookies, remember, up the sugar. The other thing about the cookies is I got a few moms that said that they just buy a cookie mix, which I actually did for a friend, and I totally forgot. I did this like last year maybe, or the year before. I bought a pre-made cookie mix and I added oats to it, and I added brewer's yeast, and I added fenugreek, and I made them and I sent them to her, and they worked. We feel that they worked. We both agreed that they probably worked. So I don't know why I forgot about that. Again, we'll blame it on baby brain. But yeah, you can also buy a pre-made mix, make it easier on yourself, and just add the extra ingredients that you would need for milk production, which would be oats, which would be flaxseed meal, which would be coconut oil is another one. So just add those few things in there. And this isn't going to totally butcher your cookies. If anything, it'll probably make them more moist. So you definitely want to do that. But yeah, so we have the cookies, the muffins. Now the muffins are another one. If you decide to make the muffins, because you're using rolled oats and you're going to be grinding them to make a better, moister muffin, you're going to have to up your fat intake, which I know to a lot of us, you kind of don't want to, but right now is the time to do that, because you do want more fat. You want more good stuff in your system for breast milk. So if you do that, just make sure that you add something that has extra fat in it. So you might want to up the milk. You can actually up the coconut oil, since you have to use coconut oil for milk production anyway. Add more coconut oil. Some recipes call for banana, apples, zucchini, any type of fruit or vegetable that's going to add more moisture to your muffin, because you don't want a dry muffin. And unfortunately, when you add brewer's yeast and all this other stuff to muffins, it dries them out a little bit. So you don't want a dry muffin. So I'll go ahead and add that recipe for you guys once these are done and I try them and I decide if they're good or not. If I like them and I think that they're worth trying, I'll post that recipe. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. A few pointers, just because I didn't know this the first time around, and I want you guys to know this. But again, there are tons of resources out there. If you need help, please reach out to a lactation consultant. If you have your baby in a hospital, and I know some of the Austin area birthing center, Birthwise, all those, I'm pretty sure they provide a lactation consultant when you deliver. So does the hospital. St. David's provided a lactation consultant that came in. They were super sweet. They were super helpful. So use them. Don't be shy. Don't worry. I mean, everything has to go out the window when it comes to being modest. Modesty is out the window. So you just had a baby anyway, right? So just bring up that boob and ask them, whatever questions you might have. Because while you might think you know how it starts and how to do it, you probably don't. I know the first one, now that I'm doing this a second time, I'm realizing I did a lot wrong. And I'm just lucky that we actually did breastfeed for over 2 years. So this time, I want it to be easier on me. I want it to be easier on my body, and I don't want to be in pain all the time in the beginning, which I was with Jack. So ask questions. And lactation consultants, I will look into it more for you guys, but I'm pretty sure there might be some sort of services here in Austin that will provide them for you, depending on financial or economic status, I guess. I'll look into that for you guys, but if not, we do have a lot of great places that provide them. Special Edition, that's where I went. They have an amazing group of ladies there that are so, so, so sweet and so helpful. Naya and her group, Rev Doula, also has a lot of great support that she can offer you guys. So just reach out and find someone that can help you guys establish this relationship, because it's really, really hard. And there's a lot that you have to remember and figure out. And when you just pushed out a baby and you're not sleeping, that's a lot, and it's really overwhelming. And unfortunately, support for new moms is really, really limited. There's not a lot of information unless you can sit down and watch, you know, episode after episode of YouTube that's showing you how to, you know, breastfeed, which that's out there, by the way. I'll add a couple of those. I found some that were really helpful. You know, you're not going to go into this just having a successful relationship. So, and you want to do that. You want to establish that. Reminder to turn that off in the future. But anyway, so let me get back on track. Another thing that I wanted to let you guys know is that one of the harder things that we've been experiencing, so Galen is 8 days old. I completely forgot about cluster feeding, and that in itself is enough to make you want to quit. And I know that's, maybe I'm sounding dramatic, but after 6 or 7 hours of latching, pulling, tugging, getting off, crying, latching, pulling, getting off, crying over and over again, you're literally thinking, I need to supplement. Like, I'm not providing him with enough milk. He is starving to death. I'm starving him. I need to supplement. Thankfully, I don't know what possessed me to look it up, but I looked it up because I was like, maybe my letdown is messed up, or maybe, you know, you start thinking all these things, like, what am I doing wrong? Which sadly, oftentimes we're not doing anything wrong. Just the fact that you're trying to nurse or trying to breastfeed is amazing. So I looked it up, and apparently at day 2, at 7 to 10 days, at 2 weeks, at 6 weeks, at 3 months, at 4 months, and at 6 months. So I've memorized these. I'm preparing for these mentally. They're going to do that. And the good thing about that is that when they do cluster feed afterwards, they're going to have a nice long sleep, and maybe you can get a little recharging break. And maybe some people are going to go against what I'm about to recommend, or they're going to say that that's horrible. But if they sleep for 4 or 5 hours, and I don't care if they're 4 days old, 5 days old, but they sleep for those 4 or 5 hours and it's their first time doing that, you sleep those 4 or 5 hours too. Don't wake them up in 2 hours to feed them again. They just spent 6 to 8 hours feeding and eating, trying to up their milk supply, because they're amazing and your body's amazing and it knows what it's doing and they know what they're doing. So let them sleep, and you sleep, and it's cool because it's all going to go back to what it was after that. Anyway, you're going to get to do this again in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So just let it be. Let them sleep and you sleep. So when you feel like this is it and something's wrong and you're not providing enough milk and you want to quit, it's only for that day, maybe one more day, and you'll be done. So keep it up. I promise it gets better. Resources, kellymom.com has saved me twice. I love it. It has everything you could ever think about in terms of breastfeeding, any questions you have for any age about anything. Like, it is the resource to go to, kellymom.com. So if you can't reach out to Naya, or you can't reach out to Stephanie from Abdullah, if you cannot reach out to a lactation consultant, go to Kelly Mom. And I promise you, this is like the best breastfeeding resource ever. So kellymom.com, check it out. It has everything you'll need. I think we're pretty much done. My muffins should be done in a minute, and I might add a little blurb, I guess, on how well they turned out. I will also link Misty's recipe, so if you guys want that, I will have that for you guys. And then I will also add 2 that have worked. Again, cookies, not what I would go for, but if you have a sweet tooth and you really want cookies, you know, this might work for you. So yeah, so 2 cookie recipes, muffin, and the lactation bites. Another thing that I'd like to recommend, if you do have an awesome partner and they're going to want to partake in your treats, have them make the cookies. The dad actually made Jack's when we tried this the first time. He made them a couple times for me, which I thought was really sweet and helpful. But we also got to share the treats. This time there is a third party involved, a third little monster, so I'll be having to share my cookies with 2 other people. So it's really up to you guys what you want to do. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You guys know I'm pretty easy to reach over private message on Facebook. My email is also easily available, but if you don't know that, it's Adriana@jacksmominaustin.com. On Instagram, Pinterest, I have a breastfeeding Pinterest page, so I'll go ahead and add that too in case you guys need a little more information. It's all helpful, and actually Naya collaborates with me in that page, so a lot of the stuff on there is legit, and it's stuff that we really find helpful for you guys, so that'll be there. And then, like I said, I'll put this up on YouTube, so you'll also have that resource. So this will be available for you guys indefinitely, with a lot of resources, and hopefully it'll be enough to get you guys through those first couple of weeks, because I definitely wish that I had that the first time around, and I know sometimes it's hard to come by, especially if you have friends that aren't having babies at the same time, or, you know, whatever reason. But I guess that's it, and I wish you guys a wonderful weekend, and I will be back in a couple of weeks. For a few weeks, it's going to be just me until I get back in the flow of things, and then I'll have my guest speakers again. But in a couple weeks, I'm going to come back with cloth diapering and talk to you guys about that. If you need to know anything about that ahead of time, cottonbabies.com is a great place to go, and she is a no BS type of woman that will just tell you like it is for cloth diapers. She doesn't talk about what brands you should buy, why you should buy them. She's very laid back, just this is why you should cloth diaper, this is why you need it, and that's it. So cottonbabies.com. If not, in a couple weeks, I'll be chatting with you guys about that, and I think that's it. You guys have a great weekend. Bye.